For many, purchasing a game and playing it to completion is the end of a game's life cycle. But a variety of games, especially competitive ones, are constantly introducing new content that can change the way we play. Why is it important to stay up on these new introductions if you want to be involved in a competitive gaming scene? And how can you keep up with all of this information? Let's talk about it today on Draw 5 Move 5. Hey everyone, and welcome to the table. My name is Gabe, and this is Draw 5 Move 5, a show where we draw connections between the mechanics behind our favorite games. Yu-Gi-Oh!, and in fact many TCGs like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, have had their best sales in years as of late. This is due in no small part to the influence of content creators garnering greater interest in the games. They record matches, vlog on their experiences at tournaments, and for many, talk about the news. Yes, the news. Not politics, the economy, or kitties caught in trees, but news related to our games. Product releases, new strategies, and breakout achievements in the field. There are a plethora of ways to consume this media, and doing so, in addition to playing the games we already love, allows us to stay up on the best strategies available and how to counter them. In order to understand why it's so important to stay involved with new products and strategies, we first have to define a term that causes some players to upturn their nose in disgust: the metagame, or meta. If you went to a large tournament with prizes on the line, what strategies would you see most? Which characters are most people playing in Super Smash Bros., League of Legends, or Overwatch? Which decks are the top tables in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and Pokemon? These best characters, best decks, best strategies are what make up the meta, or metagame, in a competitive atmosphere. I want to make it clear, there's nothing wrong with playing meta or off-meta. Both are fun in their own right and have their benefits and disadvantages. However, regardless of what we decide to play, we need to know how the meta strategies function and what makes them effective. Not knowing this information leads to losses that we wouldn't otherwise take. An unorthodox strategy can succeed if its power level is comparable to some of the better ones and has built-in ways to counter the most common strategies. And even meta strategies can fail if we don't know how our opponent's choice functions. Knowing the meta is crucial to being competitive. Now that we've talked about why it's so important to know what the meta strategies are and how they work, what are the important things to keep up with? The most common strategies are of course a starting point, but there are other equally important developments to pay attention to. The biggest one is new product releases. When we learn there's going to be a new product or a new character via leaks or official releases, we can start to discern how these things may fit into the metagame as a whole. The amount of prediction to be had varies based on the game. Smash reveals the characters well in advance of their introduction, but their movesets and how they work are only fully revealed right around release. Comparatively, the full effects of most cards in a TCG are revealed when the card is, as with leaks for Magic the Gathering sets, but these are much closer to launch. Yu-Gi-Oh! Meanwhile, being a game that originates in Japan, has all of its cards revealed before a set is released, and teased over a month or two. For players in non-Asian regions like Europe and North, Central, and South America, we know what we're getting months in advance, which allows us to test the decks and see how good they will be in comparison to our current meta. While some cards do start in the Americas and move over, we still have a couple of weeks to preview even these cards before they become playable. Regardless of how soon this information comes before release, keeping in mind the release date of any new material is important. A new product can create a large shift in a game's meta, so anytime a release draws near, it's imperative to watch the metagame and see how it evolves with the introduction of new product. The next item to stay in tune with is the implementation of new strategies and ideas. These don't just come about from new product releases, but can be new ideas meant to combat a certain problem that players are having in a metagame. Two large Yu-Gi-Oh! Events in the past month, YCS Portland and YCS Niagara, both saw significantly high placement by Gren Maju decks, going second OTK decks with a variety of powerful cards at their disposal to clear boards, such as Super Polymerization and the aforementioned Gren Maju Daiza, with a second and first place finish respectively at these events. While the builds were fairly different, one opting to use the Stromberg archetype from the anime to bolster its plays, and the other using a very large suite of danger monsters and spells, these decks came out of nowhere to take the events down because they identified a weakness in the metagame and exploited it. With enough powerful going second cards at their disposal, many of the decks that aimed to go first in the meta just couldn't deal with a few really big monsters dealing enough damage to OTK after their board was broken. The pilots were both very skilled and careful about when they made their pushes, keeping opponents on their toes with this relatively unfamiliar strategy until the moment they saw their opportunity to strike. Innovations don't need to be huge new ideas either. They can be something as simple as including a few changes into a pre-existing strategy, a few tweaks, or maybe only one. A great example of this is Jesse Cotton's inclusion of Double or Nothing and Utopia Double in his Sky Striker deck that won him the World's Points playoff at Nationals last season. Cotton realized the deck had an inherent problem with closing out games quickly, especially since slowly defeating an opponent was not his style. By incorporating Utopia Double and Double or Nothing, the deck gained an explosive OTK that dealt with one of the deck's previous flaws, suddenly allowing the deck's pilot to easily close a game if the opponent isn't expecting it. And since this initial idea, as the deck has evolved over the past few months via various ban lists and product releases, the Double or Nothing OTK has come in and out of a variety of topping striker lists. And of course, we can't forget that with balancing patches and ban lists, old strategies may come into and out of the fold at any time. For digital games like Smash Bros. Ultimate, League of Legends, and Overwatch, various patches have come through the pipeline that balance the various characters available for play. These changes, while not new products per se, can still introduce entirely new characters to the middling and top charts of options, and sculpt the meta as a whole. If a character is buffed by a patch, increasing the range of their grab or the power of a move, that character may start moving into the forefront, especially if its skill set counters the most common options in the meta. And for TCGs, the ban list is another point where things can drastically change. Moving cards onto the ban list can automatically change the meta by taking out some of the most powerful cards in top decks. We've seen this happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! With the recent ban of Guard Dragon Agripane. All strategies that previously spammed dragons to the board and summoned a variety of big, powerful dragons for far cheaper than they should be able to access have dropped off significantly because Agripane is no longer legal. While they're still around, they're far more of a rogue dark horse deck than an expected top competitor. Conversely, cards coming off the list and being reintroduced can also drastically shape the meta. The previous example of the Grand Magi OTK decks were in part made possible by the complete unbanning of Super Polymerization, one of the most powerful spells ever printed due to its ability to remove two opposing monsters with no counterplay from the opponent. We've also seen Necros decks bubble and top a few premier events as Shuret, one of their most powerful cards, has slowly been released from the ban list. By this point, we've gone over much of the information that any competitive gamer would want to keep track of. Product releases, new strategy and tech ideas, and updates to the existing elements of the game that may alter the meta, in order to perform well. Where, however, can this information be found? How do we know if it's credible, or even useful? In general, there are two primary categories we can turn to for this information. The first is any reputable website that consistently and accurately reports on news for our games. This may be the game's official accounts and sites, as with the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG's press releases on new products, ban list updates, and event coverage. And this can also include streams or other video coverage by the games company as well, as with Magic the Gathering's streaming a variety of their Grand Prix events and other high-caliber events. Beyond this, however, every game has its trustworthy sources or good places to look for collected information. For Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is often Waigo Organization, a site that releases all new card reveals from Japan and the West, collecting winning decks from Asia, and a variety of other useful articles that help players stay in touch with current events. The second category is the more fun and engaging way to find information, and that's internet personalities. Primarily YouTube channels, although many Twitch channels are just as useful in this regard, these personalities often cover news from the most reputable sources each game has available, in addition to a variety of other content based on their audience. It's fairly easy to figure out which channels have a competitive bent. For Yu-Gi-Oh! This includes channels like CMO, DZeef, and MST.TV, which are more news-oriented, House of Champs and MCole40, and which have a blend with entertainment as the primary focus, MVTYGO, Hardlight Joe, and Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! These sources exist for every game, and can be focused on specific formats for said games, like the Command Zone and Jumbo Commander covering all things Commander for Magic the Gathering players, but in general the best places to stay up to date on meta information are the news and competitively oriented channels. And last, I'd be remiss not to mention the most important and easiest way to find news, our fellow players. When we're all looking to improve, we'll often share places that we find helpful information and work together to make and keep track of new innovations. For Yu-Gi-Oh! There are entire Facebook pages devoted to specific decks, and whole communities built around content creators that will share their videos with those looking to stay up to date. If you're ever in need of suggestions for how to stay up to date, be friendly and try talking to players in your local scene or online community that you look up to or know to be consistently caught up on the meta. Watch the top players at events and see what they're doing, and experience these meta changes and how strategies function firsthand by getting out there and playing your game. Together, all of these news outlets and things to keep track of can seem daunting, but I hope it's been organized here in a way that helps you in whatever competitive journey you may find yourself on. By keeping up with the meta and being aware of changes happening in the games we seek to improve at, we raise our chances of doing so. And whenever we walk a competitive road, remember, we never walk it alone. Thank you so much for watching. You have my humble and eternal gratitude. What did you think of the conversation? Did this help you find a focal point for walking your competitive journey? And what sources do you turn to for updates that can impact your meta? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let's keep this discussion rolling down in the comments. If you enjoyed the conversation and you want to hear more from me, subscribe and dingling that notification bell so you never miss an update. I'm putting out new videos every other week on games and gaming mechanics, and dropping a like lets me know you want to see more. Before I go, we've got some new places where you can keep in contact with the channel. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook, links are down in the description. My name is Gabe, this is Draw 5 Move 5. Until next time, go have a good game.